Welcome to the Sleeping Barber podcast.
All right. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Barber's Brief, the final Barber's Brief of 2023.
Yeah.
We're done, man.
Yeah,
we
this is
successfully did it. Like self-high five. There it is. If you're a new listener, we use this forum to discuss things that have caught our eye, news over the last couple of weeks, highlight our marketing moment, or also known as a case study, get into an audience Q&A, and then finish off with that of the week. If you're a returning listener, well, thank you for coming back. We genuinely appreciate it.
Yeah. V, let's get into this. What is trending for you? Do you want me to go first?
I think you go first because
Okay.
I like this one you're leading with.
Okay, so it's not new, but there was an article that I had stumbled across, so new to me.
Okay.
From Richard Huntington, he's Chief Strategy Officer at Saatchi & Saatchi, talking about the future of strategy. So this is on WARC. We'll put a link in the show notes. But the call out here is that marketing is in need of a reality check. And so there's this thing that he's kind of moving, like a movement almost around marketing reality. So the idea is that rather than focusing on aspirational marketing, we need to focus on the needs of real people.
Okay.
So he talks about segmentation as an example. Like we have this tendency to go towards building out these personas around generations of people and just putting these labels on people like Millennial Mike or Gen Z Sarah or something like that. And so there's a huge problem with that, and we've all done it for sure, but
100%.
it misses so much of the reality of those people. Like you can't just put a generational label on someone and say they're unique, distinct, and different because of how old they are. There has to be more to it than that. And so like spending more time looking at the real things that are going on that make people special, and looking at looking for truths about who they are, as opposed to just putting giant broad labels on people. I thought it was a really good call out.
You know, it's funny. The only reason I'm laughing is because you and I have talked about this. We did a podcast on it, actually, to persona or not to persona, like that, which was really well received, and we appreciate that. But it goes back to like the conversation that we had when we were doing on our MBA, and the exercise that we were kind of forced to do that really kind of brought that back, and why was the genesis of even talking about it. And I'm with you in the sense that like there's a lot of myopic tactics like that kind of like we try to, like you said, put people in a bucket and like this is what is their common denominator. This is how they behave. So you should be targeting them.
Yeah.
The reality is those nuances exist everywhere across every generational profile. And I think as marketers, we just have to be less lazy sometimes and just kind of take that. So that was a great call one. That class, my God. Anyways.
All right. What do you got next, V?
Oh, next one. So this one's a little, I won't say difficult, but like you expect it, but you don't expect it. So Adalytics released a report that shows that Google has been placing ads on sanctioned websites.
Right.
Now, they're not direct ads. It's through what Google calls like their search partner network. And essentially, they're kind of coming under fire because of this, and as they should. But I think what's the most interesting thing here is like they've now come back, and you couldn't, if I remember correctly, you couldn't actually opt out of using their search network. There's their search partner network, but now you can. Okay. So it's one of the things. So that's where like I 100% applaud that they're reacting to this and trying to get ahead of it. The report also calls out, it sounds like it wasn't like a large volume of impressions that were going to these said sites, but I think the fact that they were anyways is a big thing. So now they're taking action, making sure they're being removed, which is also good news. But if anyone is genuinely curious and worried about this, all you would have to do is just make sure that you're opting out of their search partner network across all their Google ad campaigns. So just something to be mindful of.
Yeah, I think there's truth in that with most search. Maybe that's not fair to say, but I would say whenever there's an audience expansion network available, it's on LinkedIn, it's on Facebook, all that. It seems to me that's where most of the problems happen, as far as bad actors, inventory, questionable.
Totally.
Yeah, questionable inventory and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it just goes back to sometimes some of those things that we keep talking about around like what are advertisers actually looking for is just like some level of control and transparency. And I
Yeah.
think if Google were to release, hey, the search partner network includes these partners,
Yeah.
then it's different than I know going in, this is what it looks like. But
Totally.
that's the black box, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's where these automation tools kind of
Yeah.
can get scrutinized.
Yeah.
What you got next?
TechCrunch. AWS brings palm scanning to enterprise. So there's a product that came out during or just before the pandemic, I think, where you had Amazon go in stores where you had biometric payments. So you scan your palm print. And so they've been rolling that out. Amazon's been rolling that out into the Whole Foods stores that they own. They've now looked at this. It's not exactly the same, but it's the same concept where you can use Amazon One Enterprise for any kind of scanning of where there are people flowing through checkpoints. So office lobbies, universities, airports, those kinds of things. So in addition to, instead of using a fob or key card or PIN password, you could use your hand print, which brings up some interesting questions around how much biometric data are we giving to Amazon, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there's also other interesting implications in that, in addition just to having physical access, you could be used to create IT permissions for people to get access to software or HR data, financial data, and that kind of thing. So it's kind of interesting from a point of view of like the future is here, just not evenly distributed as far as like
100%.
You know, the Minority Report idea that we had, like however long ago that was, 20 years ago, eye scanning, retinal scanning, all that kind of stuff. It's here.
I don't know how I feel about this. There's a part of it where, I think biometrics aside, it's like these are all being logged. They live in these databases and whatnot. But like, is that the functionality that we want? Like, is that giving access to an office building? Like, I mean, is that the fob's okay, really?
Yeah. I mean,
I don't
use
know.
face scanning to get into our phones.
That's true, and it is very easy to use. I have to admit, and it's a nice little luxury. But I don't know. I won't get into it. And just
Anyway, I just thought it was an interesting one. Just
look at us talking about it. I mean, this is really interesting. Big deal. Just off the heels of your thing. Oh no, not me. I don't got big deals.
That's what I always call you, Big Deal V.
Oh, Big Deal V. Sure, why not? I'll run with it. So sounds like Amazon's been busy over the last couple of weeks. They struck a deal with IPG Media Brands.
Okay.
For their ad-supported streaming, the Prime offering essentially. And what happens now immediately, Amazon gets access to a large advertiser network through the IPG Media Brands umbrella.
Yeah.
But for the media brand side, the big takeaway here is they're actually so it is a 3-year deal, but they get the first look opportunities to any new ad formats, content sponsorships, and all that, which is great if, say, you're a client of the Media Brands Network, because then that just opens up another well of opportunity from a content perspective, especially as advertisers are increasingly looking at pulling dollars away from the big duopoly, the Meta and Google networks. So I think this is an interesting move. More to come, obviously, on how this kind of transpires. But
well, also interesting, like, because in light of Netflix having an ad-supported service now as well, like there's all these streaming platforms that used to just have one way to access it. You pay for membership. There's tons of people watching over there, so it's kind of interesting seeing that happen. Roku's got another one where they've got ad-supported services as well. So I think it's interesting.
And I think the Netflix one is through Microsoft, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
That's where you buy it from. So then again, it's like it's another another platform. And I think it's great. It's great for advertisers. It's great for for consumers as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. This one I had on Financial Post. So I'm always fascinated, like thinking back to some of the conversations we've had with Herman Simon around inflation and pricing and all that kind of stuff. So Financial Post, there was a report that Canadians are now allocating 15.4% of their income to pay off debts compared to 13% for Americans.
Hmm.
Mortgage debt makes up almost 3/4 of that debt payment. So as more and more homeowners are having to renew their mortgages at higher rates,
It's
the
not fun
number
right now.
could go up. And so the disposable impact is on disposable income for those
Yeah.
that are having to pay higher interest rates. They're spending less interest rates on their mortgages. They're spending less on other things.
Mm-hmm.
So that has a bit of an implication in terms of the economic drivers of consumerism. And so, yeah, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, it's not all doom and gloom either. Like, there's a surprising stat in here that the majority of households in Canada don't actually have a mortgage, and I don't know how that's possible. seems odd, but maybe it's because there's a lot of people renting. I don't really understand that fully. Yeah, kind of going back to the thing about Herman, like from a marketing perspective, where I think it's interesting is on the kinds of messages that we're putting out there. Like there's a natural instinct for a lot of marketers just to put a discount in their messaging.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also focus on benefits to increase perceived value. And so there's a whole bunch of things there that I think are going to be interesting for marketers to look at as far as message communication around benefits, improving value, as opposed to just decreasing costs.
Well, I'm just thankful that my mortgage is not renewing for another 3 years. And I got in at that like really nice 1.9% early. So
perfect.
I'm going to take that as a solid win.
Yeah. That's
for perfect. Big Deal V.
Yeah.
Anyways,
what else
yeah, so on Marketing Dive, we talked about Coca-Cola a couple times on the Barber's Brief here, and they did a really nice article just kind of summarizing essentially like all the cool stuff that they are doing with generative AI and whatnot. So for me, it was just it's more of like a just good article to read.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's well aware that Coca-Cola has really been actively using generative AI in its marketing strategies over the past 9 months or so, I guess getting close to about a year. Mm-hmm. They created originally like this, what they call a Create Real Magic platform. And that was basically as part of the partnership with the Bain & Company and OpenAI. And it has been used successfully for informing campaigns like the Y3000. I think more recently, even their Christmas campaign had AI influence. And what's great about this is like, they're approaching it from the lens that, using generative AI for both consumer facing experiences, but also those internal tasks within Coca-Cola. So who we were talking to Darby and Craig around some of, how are we going to internalize a lot of this using our own proprietary data internally and whatnot. Right. So Coca-Cola is basically doing and playing on both spaces. So internally and then externally. And they're really kind of leaning into using it for research purposes, the analytics, those internal processes refinement, and they're just aiming for better insights, for faster, more relevant ideas that, again, become externally facing. Yeah. So there's really nothing else to that. It was just a great article to kind of go through and see, how one of the leading brands in the world is actually leading heavily into the AI side for both internal and external purposes. So just thought I'd like to share that.
No, it's cool. Like it's funny because there was like, as I was scanning for articles to review, there's every week there's 5 or 6 articles about AI. I'm like, it's impossible to get away from it. You can't. And then as I was typing out this, there was a guy that was pinging me on LinkedIn going, "Hey, you want to try this free AI tool?" You just can't get away from this. But it's everywhere. Like it's getting to the point where yeah, it's really really interesting where people are going to with the idea of using it. Not that it exists, but how people are starting to use it, which is I think the fascinating part on the creativity side of things. Like,
oh, totally.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways. Real beauty, V.
It's a thing. It's the real cost of beauty.
Right. This is the case study. I think you got an interesting case study on Dove here.
Yeah. Well, a beloved Canadian brand. I thought it'd be
Dove is Canadian?
Yeah.
Really?
I think so.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, maybe. I'm going to look it up while you're talking.
Yeah. Well, shit. No, you got me off guard, but I think it is. So this one was an interesting one. This one caught my eye I guess it would have been a few episodes ago. And um, Dove is known for, I guess you can call it purpose-driven marketing. Everyone remembers their Real Beauty campaign that came out. God, how many years ago has that been now?
Yeah, it's been a while, like 15, I want to say. I don't even
Right.
know. Yeah.
But I think it had ushered in this new era of, Dove really taking a stance and empowering women. And this Real Beauty, the Cost of Real Beauty campaign that I think was aired in April originally, essentially is, it aims to create a safer and a healthier online environment for the younger generation, right? Now,
Yeah.
just some background context, it's 70% of kids are exposed to toxic beauty content on social media. There's new research that suggests 9 in 10 kids are actually exposed to that toxic beauty content, which is impacting obviously their mental health for 1 in 2 of those kids, which is just
Mm-hmm.
insane. So Dove essentially partnered with Harvard University to conduct a study on the impact of beauty stereotypes, revealing that 66 million Americans experience appearance hate annually, which is just crazy when you start looking at the numbers. So what does Dove do? They really aim to humanize that and drive change by focusing on the young people by creating this 360 campaign.
Hmm.
Now, the campaign itself featured long form videos of young individuals sharing their experiences with appearance hate, addressing issues like weight based bullying, race based discrimination. And it also follows the story of a young woman called Mary as well, who developed an eating disorder due to toxic beauty content that surfaces online. Now, Dove itself for this campaign really kind of chose to take action against,
Mm-hmm.
the some really popular like trending topics. So,
Yeah.
no digital distortion, reverse selfie self-talk, the detox your feed, and a whole bunch more, which is great because it really helps drive more of that awareness
Mm-hmm.
around, the toxicity that exists in social media.
Yeah.
Now, initially, the campaign kicked off and it really grabbed attention through a 2-page spread that was in New York Times,
Yeah.
which highlighted the impact of the appearance hate compared to other youth crises.
Okay.
But they really leaned heavily into like social media assets, custom digital experiences that came. I think it was like their was it their portal that it was called. Let me see here, realcostofbeautydove.com. I think it's still live for everyone to see
Okay.
too. We'll add it to the show notes. But it's really kind of helped to kind of create and engage those audiences with personal stories, data, and an impact that that appearance of hate. So it was really well done in terms of the entire 360 impact. And when you think about the overall impact that it actually had, outside of including positive feedback from various participants, and it was able to increase awareness and a call for love and respect for all kids, especially when it comes to regardless of their appearances. The campaign successfully, let me see here some of the numbers. So it opened up the conversation around the public health crisis, which is something
Mm-hmm.
that obviously is very top of mind. But their metrics, any metric, actually surpassed their expectations. So it included like 104 media outlets picked this up with a potential reach of about 1.9 billion media impressions, which is just incredible.
Yeah.
And it also had a 19-point lift in brand power as well. So it just continues this incredible legacy that Dove has created around the empowering of women, celebrating
Yeah.
real beauty, etc. Um, it actually won gold in the social and influence category at Cannes Lions in 2023. So congratulations, Dove!
Nice.
And I
Yeah.
think Strategy Magazine also named them Brand of the Year here.
Yeah.
And this
It.
was sorry, and just one last thing. This
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
Ogilvy UK and Ogilvy Toronto that came together to put this campaign
It's awesome.
out there. So good.
Yeah. Like we had a conversation about purpose, and like brand purpose, and
Yeah,
I would say this is one of those ones like Patagonia where Dove has just done a really great job. Um,
100%.
there's this. I'm just looking at this website, but there's a line in here where, or a testimony, not even a testimonial, but a quote from a person in this campaign saying, "I felt like an imposter in my own skin," and to
Yeah.
me, like that's the like. I mean, like it's so horrific. I would say what's happening with all this body shaming and all that kind of stuff. And like, I
100%.
got 2 daughters. It's really, it's a real thing. But what I like about this is that Dove, it fits for Dove. Like, they've made it
Easily.
a thing. Like, it's easily a 10-year-old campaign, and they've continued to bank on that. That it fits. That one quote around, felt like an imposter my own skin. Like, that is the connection. It is your skin. It's an organ. You're human. All skins are different. All that. So, like, to me,
Yeah.
there's such a natural connection there that they really done a great job in leaning into, more so than most brands, I would say, in those purpose-led ideas.
It's the exception to the rule, right? You talked about Patagonia, Dove, like those ones, you can sense as a consumer, they're being purposeful and genuine when
Yeah,
they're talking about these things. It's not just let's try to,
yeah,
drive at more revenue. And even like at the end of the day, of course, they want to make sure that they're driving profits for, for shareholders and whatnot.
yeah,
But at least it's coming from a place of, taking a stance on something that, that's closely tied to their products as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's a great case study. I love that one.
What do we got? So you had a question.
Yeah. So, audience Q&A section.
Mm,
So, there's a post that I put on LinkedIn about brand measurement frameworks, and
mm.
so this person Mata had a question that was, I'm going to summarize it, but basically, how do you get buy-in to change an outdated set of KPIs?
Ooh, good
Which I thought
question.
was a really good question. And in that particular case, Mata had said there was a third. There was an intermediary between Mata's team and then the company that they were actually working for. So maybe it was an agency kind of thing.
Sure.
So they couldn't speak directly to the client. So that made things even more complicated as far as justifying the
Uh,
rationale. But I wanted to throw that to you, V. Like, if you have a new set of KPIs you're trying to implement, like ROAS, going back to it, one of our favorite topics. Like, if you're working with an organization where they're all in on a particular metric or a particular set of KPIs,
yeah.
or like NPS, and then you find out that actually is maybe not as good as what we thought. How do you make that change? How do you get people to buy in to a new way of measurement, a new way of thinking?
Well, first of all, things like that take time, and
Right.
you have to be very methodical in how you want to, go about change or enforcing change. That's revisiting likely reporting structures or the
Yeah.
way people are reporting on performance. I think you and I have all experienced the crutch that is the last click attribution, and it's just so familiar. Everyone's comfortable with it, and
Yeah.
even though everyone agrees that it's probably not the best. So with anything, taking on something like this, where you're revisiting, how you're measuring your impact, and let's use in the context of marketing here, um, you have to crawl, walk, run it.
Yeah.
So essentially, where I would start is saying, okay, what are we reporting on today? How are we reporting on it? And then the insights that you start driving from those key data points is you start then sprinkling in insights that are probably coming from other sources to pique
Hmm.
interest, right? So this is something could be like offline measurement, store traffic. I'm trying to think about like some other things as well, but you start there, and then slowly you start introducing, what this new metric is and how it
Yeah.
helps tell the story that you're already working from in, say, your traditional sense. Eventually there'll become a point where it's a tipping point where now people are just so bought into this new metric or this new idea of metrics or measuring performance that it'll be long gone in the sense of, hey, why did we even measure it that way? So
Yeah.
you have to be very methodical. Yeah, at least that's the way I would approach it.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's a good point. There's a guy named Arno van Welzen that also had a good suggestion on the same post.
Hmm.
So his idea was to run a 2-system tracker for a period of time. So you at least get some of the legacy stuff that in the reporting that people are used to while you're introducing this new idea. To your
Okay.
point around having some patience while you're trying to implement something that's new,
Yeah.
and provide some value at the same time of, like, not a value, but uh, keep reporting on the things that people are expecting to see, and then introduce every time you're reporting on the new metric.
Yeah.
It could start by giving less initially, very little time to it, but then eventually just each time you're having a conversation with whoever you're reporting to, building on the story about
Yeah.
why this new metric is more important, more valuable, better than the old one, and then eventually sort of turning off the old one and just reporting on the new one.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. I would argue it's also, it's internal change management as well. So you need to lean on people that are with
Totally.
you, because it's always better when it's coming from multiple sources.
Yeah.
So you can get a direct leader or your peer group. Hey team, we really need to start thinking about this and reporting this way. So I want you guys to use this vernacular when you're speaking, right?
Yeah.
So the more people you can kind of almost lean on to help spread the message internally as well, I think is another way to introduce some of those.
Yeah, just to build on that too, there's a couple things that popped in my head as you were saying that. Like going back to the conversation with Jeff Lowe, like sometimes it's the language you use. So rather than saying brand, it's about how did he phrase it? Future demand generation.
That's
As
a great
opposed
point.
to
Yeah.
current demand. Like, so there's some language, even though we might mean the same thing, it might not necessarily be the to our advantage to hang on to a particular word or terminology. So it could just be that where you're just, working with people on understanding how they want to understand it, and use some of that language to
That's a great
insert
point.
the idea. So that's an interesting one too.
Yeah, no, it's such a great point. I'm actually going through this exercise myself right now internally, and it's the idea of like looking at something like search, but you're looking at it through an impression share volume. So how much does it cost for you to achieve an X amount of share
Right.
across your branded and generic queries? But internally, I'm using the term share of voice. I'm not
Right.
using impression share, right?
Right.
It means the exact same thing, right?
Right.
But share of voice is something that many people would understand immediately.
Yeah. An
Right.
impression share would be the metric that's on Google.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So just subtleties.
The other one I would say is the timing of when you introduce some of these ideas can be more favorable than others. So, for example, if
Yeah.
you have annual strategic plans every year, that
Mm.
might be a great opportunity to go, okay, well, what's the plan this year? Like, what are we trying to measure? Like, how is that different than last
That's
year?
a great point.
How did you feel about us measuring the way we did last? And like all that kind of stuff. There's,
Yeah.
as opposed to, I don't know, middle of June. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? When people are starting to think about their summer vacation, there may be timing
Mm.
issues that can be beneficial or not for your case.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Timing is probably, I would argue timing is probably the number one thing.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You may have like the best intentions, but if you haven't like found that right time to bring it up as, hey, this is something we maybe need to rethink. Like,
Yeah.
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 You can, anyways. Guess what's next?
Out of the week. Out of the week. Out of the week.
You were up. You were tasked with finding us the ad of the week. What did you find?
Well, I put, everyone's probably seen this by now, but Amazon Joyride. Amazon's
good.
all over this episode.
This
But it's the
episode has
one-
been sponsored by Amazon.
Yeah. But it's that one with the three old ladies sitting on a park bench, and they're at the
So
bottom
good.
of a hill and watching all these other kids and whatnot.
Yeah.
Tobogganing downhill, and then the one click they get a seat cushion for their sleds,
So
and
good.
then it's just really well done. I mean, the nostalgic component of it, like of bringing back these memories of a feeling of freedom and a feeling of
Oh man.
just joy.
Yeah.
Was I think really, really good. I know System 1 did a check on it as well, and
Oh, did they?
it was a 5-star rating. It was like
Okay.
really, really well done from their perspective as well. So just in terms, it's funny when we're talking about the benefits, value equals benefits minus cost. They're focusing 100% on the benefits here.
Mm.
It's not about how cheap you can get that cushion. It's just a really great message for a really important or big important time in the annual planning cycle for Amazon or any retailer.
Totally.
To get a message that reminds you that you can in some cases buy happiness, and it can be there in less than a day, without actually having to say all that stuff.
So true.
You know what I mean? It was well done.
It was incredible. I remember watching that and thinking, would my grandma ever do that? I don't know if I could ever picture.
Yeah.
But it was just, it was spot on. I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
V, what do we got coming up next?
So next week, we're really excited. So we have a special episode that, we're joined by Elena Hangel and Connor Byrne. That's Byrne, right? Yeah.
Yep.
From Marketing Architects, and That's What I Call Marketing, respectively. And we do a year in review, and we talk about things that we're bullish or bearish on. Top thought leaders. We rank our top thought leaders. I think
power rankings.
The power rankings are the Sleeping Barber power rankings here for the first time. Honestly, it was just such a fun episode because we, felt like the only thing that was missing, like a drink in our hand.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the kind of vibe. So
yeah, it was really good, actually. Yeah.
And we're actually airing it next Tuesday. So not our usual Thursday cadence. It will be aired next Tuesday. So stay tuned for that. Just wanted to also thank both Elena and Connor for coming on once again. Like, it was such a fun episode to do.
Yeah, it was really, really entertaining. Really fun to share that moment with them, for sure.
Oh, yeah. So good.
Awesome. Okay, V. Well, this is it. This is, and thank you for listening. Thank you for listening all year. We're coming up close to the end of the year, and this has been great. This has been a really fun year.
This has been an incredible year, and looking forward to getting back into it in the new year. And I know we have some great guests that are already lined up, so continue to do what we do.
Yeah. Until then, V.
Go chase profitability.
Oh!
Maybe we come up with a new one next year. I don't know.
Maybe. Who knows?
There's no script on this. Well, happy holidays, everyone. See you in the new year.
Take care.